Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, thanks for joining me again. So glad that you're allowing me to speak with you. Here on my podcast, I have promised to talk about the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit that surrounds us. And I do this by sharing what I have been taught, what I have seen, what I have experienced, and what the orbs have showed me. So, what I found out though, was that it even includes sacred geometry. What is sacred geometry? Um, it's everything around us. It's patterns. It's something that we can see and touch, and I'm going to get into that. So that goes back to the everyday magic that surrounds us. Sacred geometry, I found out, is in every living thing and throughout the universe. But before I dive headfirst into this heady subject, I need to tell you about how Spirit introduced the concept of sacred geometry to me and why it was important for me to be aware of it. But I need to tell you something else first. I hate math. I hate it. I barely got through it in school. And I was doing really good in school until they started, adding letters and numbers and symbols. And yeah, they lost me. So I am not a fan of higher math. So I will do my very best to describe and explain what sacred geometry is and why it is important for us to be aware of it. So, I saw this sign outside of a cafe, and it was kind of a play on the algebra X, Y letters. I guess that's throughout algebra. And on the cafe, it said, "Dear algebra, please stop asking me to find your X. She's never coming back, and don't ask me why." That's kind of how I feel about it. To carry that a step further, I do not care if an angle is right or wrong, and I don't care who has an acute problem. So that's about as much as I know. So when Spirit decided that it was time for me to know about sacred geometry, I'm sure they had their work cut out for them, but here's how they do it. Now, I've talked to you in my last podcast about when we are given visions and dreams and information. And this is what happened to me. In 2012, I was in Scotland. It was my first trip abroad. My husband went with me. And the reason I started traveling is because, if you've been listening to the show, my son passed in 2010, started me on a spiritual journey, capturing orbs. But then he started telling me that I needed to travel the world to all these sacred sites, and that he would put the trips in front of me. Well, that's exactly what happened. So 2012, I'm still kind of a newbie in all of this, but my husband said, "You're going for the first time, I'll go with you." And so we found ourselves in Scotland, and we were at a very special place in Scotland. And I talk about that in my second book, which, just know that it was a very special place. It was called Fortingall. But I was just getting ready to wake up. I know it was, how you have those real vivid dreams right before the twilight of dawn, and that's what happened to me. I'm sound asleep. I start waking up, but as I'm waking up, I'm extremely aware of this black screen in front of me. And I'm watching the black screen, and all of a sudden I see pieces like triangle or shards coming, and they're beautiful green, and they're coming from all parts of the screen, and they're meeting in the middle. And as they meet in the middle, they form two triangles. And one triangle, the points are facing each other. So one triangle's above, upside down, the other triangle is right side up. So their points meet. Still this beautiful green. So as I'm watching it, they start merging. And then as soon as they're merged, they start turning. So if we can bring up that first slide. And for those of you who are listening, this will be posted on my website and here. This is the best representation that I could find of what I saw. But this started turning. The color was incredible. The brilliance was amazing. And as it turned slowly, I actually reached out to grab it. That's how real this dream was. Well, of course, as I reached out to grab it, I woke up. I had no idea what this was, what this symbol was. That's why I'm telling you about my lack of knowledge of math. But this is what Spirit showed me. I woke up. Thank you for that. And as I rousted my husband and I go, oh my gosh, I had the most amazing dream. And you've all had those dreams. They're so vivid. You're a part of them on some level. And I started ripping up papers, and I'm going, and then this piece came in, and then that piece came in, and then it did this, and then it formed these triangles, and I'm going on and on, talking really fast, and my husband's going, but I was trying to convey how beautiful and how vivid, and I go, I have no idea why I saw this. Now, being the dutiful spiritual student that I am, I knew that I had to find out, what is this all about? What does it mean? And then I heard the term sacred geometry, and I went, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But I started reading about it. So here is what I found out and what I want to share with you today. I am not, as I said, a mathematician. I will plant these seeds for you. And please, if something resonates within you, please do your own research. Please expand upon this. Find out what it is that you need to know about sacred geometry. So sacred geometry represents the universal patterns found in the design of everything in the physical world. And it can be broken down to a language of mathematics. So we're going to talk about numbers in a minute, but right now we're going to talk about the shapes. There is nothing random about creation. Creation itself follows these laws. It follows these patterns, and they repeat over and over and over again. The ancients recognized these patterns as the building blocks of creation itself. There's sacred temples, there's sacred sites all over the world, and sometimes they're grouped together. And when you look at them from above, they can be in the shape of sacred geometry, in the form of spirals or a triangle. Triangles are very important, as are circles. So, and the ancients, I just call them the ancients, past civilizations, they knew this. They understood this. I so wish I knew what happened, why we let that go. But that's a conversation for another time. But in sacred geometry, there's a harmony. When buildings are built to the sacred geometry dimensions, they resonate with us. They're very pleasing for us to look at. So sacred geometry is very important. The mathematician who is called Euclid, And I've read that he's considered to be the father of geometry around 300 BC. Although, as I've just said, geometry and the concept of sacred geometry has been around for a very, very long time. Even back, they say now 3000 BC, but I think it goes back further than that. It keeps getting pushed back. But the ancients considered sacred geometry, if not essential, to the education of the soul. That's important. The education of the soul. Why? Because it enhances our connection to spirit. And I'll explain how this works. And if that's what helps us to enhance our connection to spirit, isn't that what we're all trying to do? Isn't that why you are listening to shows like mine? Because you want to further develop your spiritual connection. Well, this is one of the spheres. This is one of the areas probably that we need to be aware of in order to do that. So if I could get the next slide. And this is kind of the color that, for those of you that are listening, this is an orb that I actually took, and it's an emerald green overlaid with the image of a circle and the flat Merkabah, which represents the Star of David. It's so important to me that it's even on the cover of my book. So, but what this says, this is a quote by Plato. And he said, geometry draws the soul toward the truth. So there's that. It's important for us to know thing again. It's important for us to know about geometry and how to incorporate it in our lives, which I will also touch on. What do we do with this? How do we study this and use it? Thank you very much for that slide. So there are 5 basic shapes associated with sacred geometry, and they are considered the fundamental building blocks. And I'll just go through these names. I hope I don't destroy them. Tetrahedron, which is a 4-sided figure. Hexahedron, which is a 6-sided. Octahedron, which is 8. Dodecahedron, which is 12, and the icosahedron, which is 20. So these are called the Platonic Solids. These are the basics. These are the fundamental blocks of sacred geometry. What is a Platonic solid? Kind of the definition is that all sides are the same shape. So if you look at a tetrahedron, which is 4-sided, which was part of that Merkabah, the bottom and the 3 sides, they're all the same triangle, right? And so that continues through. So that's what makes a Platonic solid. So, but what underlies everything in here is the triangle. I told you in one of my podcasts about my dream about my guide giving me a triangle, and he told me to put it in my ear, and I wear a triangle. Using and wearing symbols are important. The ancients knew this. They used to inscribe these symbols on all of their sacred temples. So the triangle, it represents or symbolizes harmony and balance. 2 very important words on a spiritual path. So let me tell you about how Spirit then also showed me another use for the tetrahedron or the triangle. On another one of my trips, I was in Bosnia. And in Bosnia, they've just discovered several pyramids. And we'll talk about that more in the future. But we went up to one of the pyramids. It was called the Moon Pyramid. And we did a a 20-minute meditation. Nothing special. We were just supposed to go up there and sit in silence, kind of merge and blend and relax and see what comes in. Well, for me, all of a sudden, I see in my mind's eye as I'm meditating this keyhole. And I'm looking at it. And as I'm looking at the keyhole, it then appears on a triangle or like a pyramid. And as I'm watching this, going, what the heck is this? These words are imprinted upon my mind. And if we can bring up, this is my image that I did, so you can kind of see what I was seeing. And here are the words that they gave me. When you enter into and merge with the energy of the pyramid, the triangle, you once again become one with the cosmos. This is your purpose, and you alone hold the key in your hand. Thank you for that. So there's that important triangle. There's the words telling us we can do this. We can unlock this magic if we do the research, if we train ourselves, if we become aware of how to do it. So the next thing we have in sacred geometry is the circle. And sacred geometry is said to begin with a single circle or sphere, which then takes me right back to the orbs, right? Because the circle has no beginning, it has no end. It represents potential. It represents infinity. It represents original perfection, all cyclic movement, and even God. That's the potential right there. So if we could bring up that next slide. So when you look at the circle, there's 360 degrees in a circle. And when you add those numbers, you get number 9. Again, that goes back to the numerology. 3 plus 6 plus 0 is 9. 9 is the universe itself. And we'll get to that more in a bit. Now, this is a picture, for those of you listening, of 2 orbs. They look like they're either coming together or pulling apart. Their edges are overlapped. They're a beautiful green. When a circle starts, the next thing in sacred geometry, because it represents potential, is when the circle duplicates itself. When the circle duplicates itself, it turns into this image. This is called a vesica piscis, and it is the union of heaven and earth. And so if the circle represents the potential, then obviously the next step is this duplication. It's defined, as I said, also as the union of heaven and earth, but also as the womb of life. This is the beginning. The circle is potential. This is the beginning of creation. So this is where the circles meet, is where we meet spirit. Vesica piscis is really important in sacred temples and sacred texts. And it's very, I don't want to say important, but this is how creation is explained in a lot of ancient texts. Thank you for that. So the next thing that happens is it duplicates again. It duplicates again. It duplicates again. And when it gets to, I think it's 7 times it duplicates, then it becomes the flower of life, that geometric pattern that we are all familiar with. This structure is said to contain the seed of life. And within it, within the flower of life, you can put in all 5 Platonic solids. Now, you would have to Google that and read about that and show how all these fit. But that's the seed of life, the womb of life. Everything begins with that circle and then moves out. So again, this foundation of everything in the physical world is the circle. But when these Platonic forms, they can be reduced to their smallest forms, and that becomes the triangle, the square, the circle, the spiral, and the straight line. So it's really fascinating, and I hope you do it, and to research all this and to look at these diagrams and see how perfect they are. So I want to just say one other thing about the flower of life. It also forms the basis for music, because when you overlay the spheres, the distance between each sphere is equal to the distance between each tone and halftone. I know me saying that is probably going, what is she talking about? So again, if you can go and find that image and look at that, it's really important, because Pythagoras, I can't even pronounce the mathematician's name, who was a Greek mathematician around 500 BC. He said, there is geometry in the humming of the strings. There is music in the spacing of the spheres. So that last image that I just showed you, the two images of the orbs that are duplicating themselves. I told you in another podcast that everything is energy, everything is vibration, everything is frequency. And Nikola Tesla once said, in order to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, if I'm not mutilating that quote. So it's important. Geometry is also vibration. It's also frequency. And that's what everything is. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency. So let's bring up slide 5 if we can here. So this kind of gives you an idea of how the circle starts. It's a single circle, then it goes to 2 circles, and then it goes to 4 circles, and then it ends up as the flower of life. That flower of life symbol, by the way, is found throughout the world, on ancient temples, in civilizations that supposedly had no contact with each other, but yet it was a very important symbol for these ancient civilizations all over the world. Leonardo da Vinci, whose quote this is, he says, learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. That's what we do when we study on a spiritual path. One of the things that Spirit has told me, and perhaps you, is that we are all connected. There is no separation. That is such an important concept for us human beings to understand. Sacred geometry kind of shows that. Everything, we are part of the universe. We are part of one another. We are part of the single circle. That is where we all originated from. And people say, how do we make this world a better place? Well, we make it a better place when we realize that we are all one. We are all connected. What we do to one, we do to all, we do to ourselves. That's how this world changes. That's kind of how sacred geometry can lead us to enlightenment, to an understanding, to a spiritual growth. So, what I love about that is we've heard that, and I've heard that, okay, we're all connected. People like proof. Okay, there's geometry, I heard somebody say, math doesn't lie, and it doesn't. If it proves that everything's connected, then it's connected. So okay. I'm going to get into my Merkabah dream, go back to that, because that is really interesting. But we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'll finish up on that. I'll do Leonini's message and a special card reading for you. We'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure
Pure love.
love.
Welcome back. Okay, so I want to get back to the Merkabah because this is really important. So the word Merkabah actually can mean chariot of God, can be referred to as a divine light vehicle, a chariot of ascension, and it's mentioned in the Bible in the book of Ezekiel, but this concept goes way back. And the word Merkabah is made up of three words, Merkabah, and Ka means light, Ba means body, and Mer means light, Ka means body, and Ba means spirit. So Merkabah actually broken down means light, body, and spirit. So the Merkabah is thought to be a vehicle with which to reach ascension or to travel to interdimensional. We all have Merkabahs available to us. But you can't just go out and start the key up and go, okay, I'm going to get in my Merkabah now. That's not how it works. The Merkabah is activated by a shift in consciousness. It's by increasing your vibration. It's activated when a pattern of consciousness, your way of thinking, enables your perspective to be unrestricted. I have a friend who tells me, she says, Nancy, you have so much trust and belief in spirit. I've never, you don't question anything. You just accept it. And I do, because my son has shown me so many amazing things. And when he first passed and started to tell me I'm going to get orbs, I had no idea what that was, but I trusted. And every step along the way, I trusted. One of my favorite quotes I have told you is by the teacher, Wayne Dyer. He quotes the Bible and he said, with God, all things are possible. And then he adds, what does that leave out? Nothing. And that's how I approach things. Spirit has told me through my channels, through my groups, through my readings, we've only just begun to see what they are capable of, to see what's there waiting for us. So we have to keep this open mind. So I had this open mind. So because of my open mind and trust and faith, my Merkabah started up. And that's what Spirit wanted me to know. Now, I believe, consciously experienced traveling in the Merkabah, and I will tell you that in another show. But I wanted to tell you about why they showed me that and why it was so important. So as we talk about sacred geometry, there's two more things that I would like to introduce to you or talk about if you haven't heard these. One is called the Fibonacci Sequence, and the other is called the Golden Ratio. The Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers that repeats itself over and over and over again in nature. The numbers are 3, 5, 8, 13, and 21. How do you know this? Grab a flower that's fully intact. Count its petals. It's going to be either 3, 5, 8, 13, or 21. The golden ratio or divine proportion is the ratio between those numbers. Think of a nautilus shell that has been cut in half. That spiral. There's that spiral again. And that spiral widens by a factor of 5, I think, every quarter turn. So it's in perfect divine proportion. So the spiral is also a representation of the Fibonacci and golden ratio, and that too is inscribed in temples and sites all over the world. When I was in Malta, the spiral was everywhere. Why? Because the spiral spirals up and it connects the physical being, you, me, to our higher selves. That's how I'm able to reach my higher self, Leonini, who I channel with messages. Energy moves in spirals. Look at the galaxies out there. It's like an unwinding. You've seen those pictures of the cosmos, and the galaxies look like an unwinding spiral, turning. It even flows through our chakras, and even it's in our DNA. When you see images of the double helix of our DNA, it's a spiral. So there's that geometry, there's that connection, there's that, spirit is not willy-nilly. Spirit does not do things out of the laws or out of perfection. So just know that. So I hope, again, I don't have a whole lot of time to go into that. But like me, find out, do the research. We used to have the old mystery schools way back when. 10,000 or whatever. People were taught this, but they went away. I don't know why they went away, but they went away. And with them, the knowledge of all this connection, all this sacred knowledge, all this symbolism, the important stuff to assist us went away. But yay, we are in a time where we are starting to rediscover it. But you have to do the work. We can't go to a mystery school now. But there is so much information out there. I tell people being on a spiritual path is not easy. It takes work. You're not going to meditate for 10 minutes, wake up and go, oh, I'm enlightened now. That's not how it works. But if you put in the effort, if you ask Spirit to help you, you will be led through this. So please do that. So if we can bring up slide 6, and I told you I was going to talk about the number 9. Now, this is an image that I took. It's 3 orbs that arrange themselves in almost a perfect triangle right around a full supermoon. And after I took this picture, this quote, of course, crossed my path. And again, it's by Nikola Tesla. And if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, 9, you would have a key to the universe. There's that key again, right on the triangle. That's what I was shown in Bosnia at the Moon Pyramid. There is an amazing YouTube video, and I believe it's called Revealing the Secrets of Nikola Tesla's Code 369. Please watch it if you're interested. It will explain the numerology and the relationships and how these numbers are found throughout nature and the universe. But the number 9 is the symbol of enlightenment. In the perfect circle of 360, that's what we get. It is the number 9. Number 9 holds the universe itself. It is the vibration, the energies, and the frequencies of the universe. So I have one more sacred symbol that I want to talk about. And this symbol dates back, I think 700 BC. It's called the Yin Yang. And I love how the orbs always confirm or show me or lead me a little further down the path. This is the only time that I have ever captured this, and I'm going to bring it up in a minute. It's a little small and a little fuzzy, but I've put a printed symbol of the yin yang next to it. You can always go to my website, the orbconnection.com, and there's a tab for all my podcasts, and the pictures that I've talked about are on there and here too. So if we can bring up this next slide. So here's the yin yang. I hope you can see it. The black is on top and the white is on the bottom. So this symbol, of course, is light and dark, but it represents the unity and duality of both. I want to repeat that because it's the unity and duality. We live in a world of duality. There is light and dark. There is male, female. There is intuition. There is logic. It's part of our world. Why? Because this duality is what teaches us. It's what grows us. You know, even the best person, if you look at this symbol, you'll see that in the white space, the white teardrop, I call it, there's a black dot. And in the black space, there's a white dot. There's a little bit of darkness in the very best person, and there's a little bit of dark lightness in the dark person. And this ratio can change. We are fragile. And in our world of duality, it's how we learn and grow. So there'll be times when the white is bigger than the black and vice versa. But this is just for spirit to demonstrate to us why it's important for us to understand this duality, this ratio, and this symbol. So I can't go over everything. It's too much, and I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, but I really hope that something that I've told you today sparks your interest and that you can research this. I mean, just the fact that, hey, maybe we can start our own Merkabahs, this divine light vehicle to further our spiritual growth would be worthwhile checking out. So how do we incorporate this outside of research? How do we incorporate sacred geometry in our lives? Well, I've told you that the temples have symbols carved all over them. They wore the symbols. I'm wearing the symbols. So to meditate on them, to keep the symbols near you. These symbols, just like the orbs, I told you everything carries a vibration. And when the symbol or the image is in harmony, its vibration is in harmony. So keeping those by you, meditating on them. If you are into the mandalas, keep a mandala, color mandalas, research, go walk out in nature, go look around. All the plants that follow the sacred geometry. And it's great to go out in nature. I think not there aren't enough of us who get out in nature enough times. It's so important. In fact, as this airs, I had to pre-record it. I'm going to be sitting in the middle of the redwood forest. It's one of my very favorite places on the planet to be. So I will sit there. I will meditate. My pictures, I hope I capture something special, which I have before, and I will share that with you when I come back. So anyway, the other way that you can do that is with crystal grids. But research, it doesn't take long. Start. There's so much information out there for you. So I wanted to let me do the card reading, and then I will give you Leonini's message. So the cards that I'm going to use, I do not have a sacred geometry card deck, although I ordered it and I was hoping it was going to be here in time, but it didn't. So my deck that I chose is called Earth Magic. And I'm going to do this with the intent that this message is hopeful, helpful, and healing, and it helps you along on your path. So I'm shuffling the cards. And give me a second here. I want to make sure that I pull the right card with the right intention. And I did shuffle them a little bit before the podcast started. So let me finish here. Okay, so I have them shuffled. This is what the back side looks like. And the first card that's on the top. Oh, it's called Miracles. So geometry maybe helps explain miracles. I told you that nothing happens randomly. There is purpose in everything. When you understand that purpose, you understand the miracle of life. You understand the miracle of our connectedness. You understand the perfection of the Creator and the universe. There is so much waiting out there for you. This card also, it shows kind of a cliff. And the bottom of the cliff, it's a little dark. And there are two rays of almost like rainbows, one that goes down to the bottom and one that goes up to the top. That again goes to the duality. One is in the light, one is in the dark. So what this card is telling you, and what we need to realize too throughout our life, there are no mistakes. There are only lessons. So when you realize that, then you're able to forgive yourself for those times when the dark yin and yang seemed to take over you, or you did something that you thought, oh, if I could have done that again. Well, the lesson is next time that presents itself, then you do it differently. But you don't carry the past regret into the future. Okay. But so this card is telling you to understand that there is always a path, there is always a light to follow. So I just love that. Okay, so let me tell you about the message. And if I have time, I'm actually going to read you two messages, because I have a message that I had picked from Leonini out of the book that I had published. It's called The Wisdom of Leonini. Oops, there it is. If it has over 100 of her messages. So if you want a copy of this, just send me a note. theorbconnection@gmail.com, my website, theorbconnection.com, my Facebook page, The Orb Connection. So because I was talking about math, I chose one, and I'll show you the picture. When I channel with Leonini, the first thing that she shows me is an image. She'll show me a picture. And amazingly, when I go to find that picture on the computer, it's exactly as she showed me. So the first one that she showed me for this picture, for this message, I hope you can see it. Do you remember those old time folding rulers? So that's what she showed me. So here was the message. How do you measure up? Depends on the device that you are using to do the measuring. Are you using a ruler that is too short and too judgmental? Is it notched with perceived failures, regrets, and grudges? Then it's time to use a different ruler, one that can extend to the outer limits of your potential. When you use that ruler, you will see it marked with each act of kindness, each act of love, and each action in forgiveness and compassion towards yourself and towards others. This ruler has no limitations. And when you understand that there are no failures, only lessons, you will become spiritually taller every day. So that kind of ties in with the card reading. There are no mistakes. We're perfect beings on the inside. There's only lessons. So I do have a few minutes. So I wanted to share the second message that Leonini gave me. I always sit before the day before my podcast, and I ask Leonini, do you want to give me a message? And for some reason, she's telling me that I need to read this for you out there. So again, to follow with what Leonini does, she shows me an image. So the first thing she showed me was an arm with goosebumps. And you know how your goosebumps, makes your hair stand straight on end. Well, that was the image that she showed me. And I always kind of smile and I go, okay, where are we going with this? So this is what she had to say. And this goes to the whole idea of energy. The tingles. It is a quaint term that you use when you feel the hair on your arm or back of your neck stand straight up, or when you get what you call goosebumps all over your body. By any name, they do feel electric, don't they? It feels as if there is a frequency around you, activating your energy, which results in the physical rise of these bumps. Why is that? Well, you could be picking up on the energies bumping into you. These energies could be sent as a warning or as a confirmation that you are in touch with the divine. The tingles are a physical reminder of the non-physical world and how close it really is to you. It's just a goosebump away. Everything is energy. Even love itself carries its own frequency, and the tingles are proof of your ability to sense this invisible force. Now, I have talked on my other podcast about dreams and visions and signs, and not to discount them. So don't discount those visions. Meditate, research, sit with the information that you have. Look for books. Go to seminars. I'm so excited that now we're starting to be able to get together again. I know we've done a lot on Zoom, and that's been wonderful. But to be with people again, and in that energy, it's wonderful. So explore, enjoy, trust. I told you before, part of my growth has been because I trust. So I want to tell you too, next time on this radio. Oh, so my husband told me I need to plug my books. So if you want to order my books, the first one is called Entering the Light Fantastic. Both of these books are available on Amazon, and it tells how my journey started. How the orbs started, the meaning of orbs, the description of orbs. The second book got a little more woo-woo. It's the green one that I showed you. It's called Encircled by the Light Fantastic. And it takes us a little, the tagline on that is a deeper journey into the light with orbs. So I get into things with the sacred geometry and the dreams and the visions. And I also talk about dragons. And that's going to be the topic of my next show. I'm going to talk about dragons. I'm going to talk about ley lines. What are ley lines? They're the energy grid, the energy lines that run through our planet. And the dragons are a part of that, at least how it was shown to me. I will even show you 3 pictures of my dragon. And again, it's always, my son told me when I do this show to build it around the orbs and around my photographic evidence. So each show I will endeavor to do that. So the next one I'm kind of excited for. I've always had a thing for dragons, and I get to share that with you. Again, if you would like a copy of the Leonini book, just drop me a line. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I hope this was beneficial for you. I hope you found some inspiration in these words. I thank you for trusting me with your time. If you have anything that you would like to ask me, you can send me a question and I will try to get to it in the next show or send you a private message. That also goes for your pictures of orbs. People will send me their pictures and ask me what I think of it, and I will tell them. So please, and no charge on that. Just send me a note, and I will do everything I can to explain that to you and to get back to you. So for now, I want to thank you once again. I look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about dragons. Take care. Bye-bye.